Thank you. Will I rise to speak in opposition of this terrible piece of legislation, and firstly just like to associate myself with the comments made by my colleague who leads this area for the Australian Greens, and that of course is Senator Faruqi. Now, I am just gobsmacked at the dodgy deal that has been done this week by the Centre Alliance Senator Griff, and the member for Mayo, Rebekha Sharkie, South Australians who, after months of telling the South Australian people they had problems with this bill, they knew that this piece of legislation was bad for students, bad for the economy, bad for education. Months later, we now see the most significant backflip Centre Alliance has done since Nick Xenophon left this building. They have sold out South Australian students, they have sold out families, they have sold out our university sector, and they are going to make our South Australian economy suffer even more. In our state, we have the highest youth unemployment rate in the country. And under this dodgy deal between Scott Morrison and Rebekha Sharkie, we have seen life made even harder for young people. If there's no jobs for you, if there's nowhere to go after you finish school, we want young people to be able to go to university and study, if that indeed is what their desire and aspiration is. And this bill, this piece of legislation today, makes that, for some of these young people, near impossible. Now, we've heard the platitudes from Centre Alliance Senator Griff this morning. After hiding for the last 24 hours from the Australian media, from the Australian people, we've now finally had some type of an explanation. And I tell you what, it's rubbish. They have been sold a pup. They've been hoodwinked by the government, and they're now passing a piece of legislation that is going to undermine our university sector for decades. It is going to throw young people under the bus and lock them out of future career opportunities forever. Let's just be clear. The coalition government, Rebekha Sharkie and Centre Alliance, and Pauline Hanson One Nation Party are all voting today to cut funding to universities and to make it more expensive for students who are studying things like arts and humanities. And do you know who that disproportionately affects, Madam Deputy President? Women. Who has been the hardest hit in the middle of this economic crisis and in this recession? Women. Who has been the most hit by the loss of jobs, the loss of hours, the cuts to wages in this country because of this pandemic and this recession? Young women. And who is going to carry the burden now of the changes and the cuts to universities and the hike in fees that is going to pass this parliament because of this grubby deal that's been done? Young women. Women are the sacrificial lamb of this deal being done today by Scott Morrison and Rebekha Sharkie. It's just unthinkable. I mean, there is actually the ability in this place sometimes to make a real difference, to protect people from bad decisions that governments try and make, to make sure that decisions don't disproportionately affect one group in the community. Centre Alliance had an opportunity to do something and they've stuffed it. This government has had it in for universities since day dot, and now they've been handed the ability to follow through. Let's remember, Tony Abbott, when he was Prime Minister, took an axe to the university sector. Let's remember, this government has never thought that students who choose courses like arts, humanities, the creative industries, that those students should be supported by government. They've had it in for them forever. And now they've just been given the green light by crossbenchers in this place. I think South Australians will be very, very angry that their senator, Sterling Griff, is voting with Pauline Hanson today to make it harder for a young woman to study humanities at Adelaide University. That is what is happening. That is what is happening today. Senator Griff is voting with Pauline Hanson to make it harder for students to study an arts degree, a humanities degree. Sterling Griff is voting with Pauline Hanson today to make life harder for young South Australian women. It's appalling, and they need to be called out for this. What did they get for this grubby deal? A couple of $1 million for a road in Hahndorf. How do we know that? Because the member for Mayo, Rebekha Sharkie, stood in the House yesterday and asked a Dorothy Dixer of the government, "Please, Deputy Prime Minister, tell me how good I am." And just so no one would miss it, she issued a media release saying the exact same thing. Senator Griff had a slip of the tongue earlier when he referred to the member for Mayo as the Minister for Mayo. Is that what's going on here? Is this all part of some deal to get the member for Mayo into the government? Throw young South Australians under the bus, throw our universities under the bus, sell out the future generation of workers and educated professionals so that the member for Mayo can get a cosy job with the government? This isn't Centre Alliance anymore, folks. This is Liberal Alliance. It is absolutely appalling that after knowing all the facts, after tweeting all of the problems that this bill has and this piece of legislation has, that you then turn around and expect people to believe that this is a good deal for students. It is not. It's bad for students, it's bad for universities, and it's bad for our economy, and overwhelmingly it is bad for women. Now, last night we had an extraordinary budget handed down, billions of dollars put on the table. And who continues to miss out under this government? Women. Oh, let's, credit where credit's due. The Prime Minister had a paragraph in there in the budget around the impact on women, $250 million over 5 years. It's like they got to the end of the budget and went, oh, damn, there's a whole other... Who did we forget? Who did we forget here? Oh, women. Oh, we better write the word in there somewhere. Time and time and time again, it is women in this country who miss out under this government. This is the pink recession, and yet nothing of substance has been put on the table to help them. And in fact, we're now going to see the situation get worse. Because while the majority of people who have lost their jobs or lost their hours or lost their income in the midst of this are women, this particular piece of legislation is going to make life even harder. Harder for them, harder for the next generation of women coming through, and condemning young women across this country. Why bother studying hard at school if you can't even get into the course you want to get into because the government decides it's not good enough? The message that Scott Morrison is sending young women today is we don't value you. We don't really care. We know you're there, but we don't value you. That's what his budget said last night. That's what this piece of legislation says, and that is what Scott Morrison is doing. Seen but not heard. That's this government's response to young women in this country. It is not good enough. It is not good enough. The fact that this is being shepherded through the parliament by two so-called independents is disgusting. Now, I know the electorate of Mayo quite well. A lot of progressive voters in Mayo right now are shaking their head and thinking, what? Who did we vote for? This wasn't what we were promised. People are disappointed in the member for Mayo, Rebekha Sharkie, because she has let them down. She has let them down. She's cozying up to the Liberal government. She's flicking through the most fundamental, controversial changes to our education system we've seen in decades, locking out young women from the ability to study, to get those skills and that training they need to get a job. Voters in Mayo are disappointed, and they're going to remain disappointed for a very long time. No wonder the member for Mayo is hiding from the media today. No wonder she refuses to take and answer those calls from journalists, because she knows she's done the wrong thing. The new Liberal alliance in South Australia are showing their true colours. Liberal light, now flag bearers of the coalition government, and South Australians are going to be pretty disappointed. They don't like being lied to, they don't like being tricked, and they don't like being treated as mugs. And yet today, that's what Rebekha Sharkie and Sterling Griff expect can happen. That people won't ask questions. Under the cover of the budget, no one will know what's going on. Well, people are smarter than that. These reforms are devastating to our university sector. They're devastating to young people, devastating for young women, devastating for families, and bad for our economy. They should be voted down. I'm so thankful that the opposition, Senator Lambie, Senator Patrick, all of my Greens colleagues see sense that setting young people up to fail like this in the middle of this terrible recession is not the right way to go. The exact opposite. I am disappointed that those on the other side continue their ideological attack on education, on young people and on women. That's why I'm voting no onto this bill later today.